What's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about aperture. Let's go. So, what is aperture? Aperture is the size of the blades inside, how closed or open they are. It controls how much light is let into the lens, which balanced with shutter speed and ISO is what gives you your exposure. It's also combined with focal length, what gives you depth of field. What is depth of field? Right now I have my aperture set at 2.8, which is we would call faster. That's why the background is blurry and I'm in focus. It's because I'm closer to the lens than the background, so it's going to have me in focus and background out of focus. So if we raise the aperture, let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so now it is at 5.6. As you can see, the background is not quite as blurry anymore. It's because on the inside it is closed down more, letting less light in, so I had to bump up my ISO because you can't really mess with shutter speed when you're doing video, but it gives it a less shallow depth of field. Now let's go even higher. Okay, so now it is on 9. The aperture is even smaller, which means the background is even less blurry. You can see more in focus, and for different things it can come in handy. So if you're taking a picture of a wider area and you want more stuff in focus, then you raise your aperture. If you want just to bring your main subject in focus and have the rest of it blurry, you go with the faster aperture or the lower number. So let's switch back to let's go to 1.8 just to go as fast as this lens will go and see what it looks like. Let's go. Okay, as you can see, I am in focus. Not even the back of the chair is in focus anymore. This is a very, very shallow depth of field, and it can even make my ears blurry if I'm turned just right. It's pretty crazy how shallow the depth of field becomes once you have your aperture set to a number like 1.8 or 1.4 or even 1.2. But what that does give you is the separation. It makes the background just kind of wash out where I'm the focus of the video now. And for video work, this is really cool when you're inside and you can actually do this kind of stuff. But what happens when you go outside and it's really bright, and so you have to raise your aperture to let less light in because it's so bright? You lose that shallow depth of field, and it's one of the things that makes a video look cinematic is having that depth of field. So how can we have the shallow depth of field without messing with the shutter speed, because you don't want to mess with that because of video? If you watch the last video on understanding shutter speed, well, they make these things. This is called an ND filter, and what an ND filter is it's basically sunglasses for your camera. And this is what you call a variable ND filter, which if you can see the light through it, I can darken it up, I can lighten it up first, and then darken it up to where you can't see anything through it. And so this allows you to let less light in, still maintaining the 1.8 aperture, and get the shallow depth of field outside. So what we're gonna do now is we are actually going to go outside. We're gonna shoot first without this, just see what it looks like, show you why you can't really get the shallow depth of field. And then we're gonna throw this on there and show you what this can do. And this isn't a review for this, we'll do that later, but I just wanna show you how you can still maintain a fast aperture even when you're outside. So let's go. Because I'm outside and it's overcast, all I can get is 4.5. It gives me the proper exposure. Now let's throw on that ND filter and see what it looks like. So now I can get the background blurry outside because I'm using that ND filter. And it really just adds a little bit extra to the video, as you can see. So as you can see, when you're outside, using that ND filter allows you to have that more shallow depth of field, and even something as silly as the flowers outside the window really can look just that much better because you can get that shallow depth of field. I cannot wait to get back to the boys' house and do another vlog and get to test this out when we're outside and really get to use shallow depth of field even outside, because inside it's easy because most of the time I have to have my ISO bumped up anyway. But when you're outside with ISO as low as possible and your shutter speed stuck at 50, you really don't have a lot of options to keep your aperture at that 1.8. And so ND filters are fantastic for allowing you to have sunglasses for your camera, allowing you to turn down the amount of light coming in so that you can have your aperture set really fast and get that beautiful shallow depth of field. Now, as far as picture goes, this is where it's kind of a little different for the video side, because with pictures you can completely adjust your shutter speed. And so when I'm outside and I have it set on 1.8, I can go crazy and have my shutter speed at like 1/4000th of a second, take the photo, and it's gonna look beautiful. But where the ND filter comes in handy when you're outside and with aperture, and when you would want to use that, is darkening up the shot, having the fast aperture, and doing long exposures during the daytime. So let's say you want a picture of a waterfall, but you don't want to freeze the water. You want the water to look like glass over an amount of time, or even if it's waves coming up on a lake or river flowing by, you can actually make it look still and like it's glass by doing long exposure. So having your shutter speed, instead of 1/50th of a second, have it like 15 seconds long. Normally during the day, you would have to crank your aperture up insanely high, like 22 or 32 or however high your lens will go. But with the help of an ND filter, you can still keep your aperture fast and do those long exposures during the day. It's also really good for landscapes because you can get the sky to really pop. It's really cool, and I'm gonna mess with it some more. The ND filter is not the point of this video. The point of this video is talking about aperture, and aperture plays a big part in how you take photographs as well as video. And so when you are out there trying to figure out how to work your camera, instead of putting everything in auto because you're tired of the pictures looking noisy, even when you're outside and it just doesn't look quite right and you know you can do better, understanding shutter speed like the last video, and understanding aperture in this video, and then the ISO in the next video, putting those things together, you get a concept of how to actually control your camera, because it's a balancing act between those three parts in order to give you the correct exposure. And this is something I'm still messing with, especially in here, because the lighting is just so weird. I can have what I think my face looks great on the screen, and then I get it back on my computer and my face is really dark and the background is really bright, and it's a mess. But getting the control over the aperture, the shutter speed, and the ISO allows you to create the kind of videos that you want to create. And that's the whole point of this channel in the first place, is being able to create something that can help somebody. So, aperture, the opening inside the lens that allows light in. And when I had this realization that I'm about to share with you, it kind of blew my mind. If you have ever been to the doctor and had your eyes dilated, what happens is your pupils get really big, like a fast aperture, and things get blurry, and when you go out in the sun it hurts and they make you wear those glasses. That's because your eyes are basically apertures. The muscles that your pupils that constrict and open up work like the aperture on your camera does. So if you've ever noticed when you go outside your pupils get really small, it's because it's trying to let in less light. And then when it's really dark, your pupils get really big, it's because it's trying to gather more light so that you can see. That's exactly what aperture is on the camera. So if you ever were confused by what these words mean, that's the coolest way I can think to explain it. It's really just the size of the opening, and if I'm closer, the background will actually get blurrier. And if I'm further away, the background will almost come more into focus, because the aperture deals with the depth of field, but so does the distance from the lens and the focal length of the lens, which we've talked about in previous videos. So go back and watch my other videos and like and subscribe. Ding! But I hope this helps someone out there. If you have any questions, shoot a comment down below. Love you guys. Don't forget to live that creative life. I'll see you next time. Bye!